Wow, what a crazy couple of weeks it's been. Oh, I've been watching the news a lot. I've been paying attention to everything going on, oh, whether it's political or um, world events. There's a lot happening, and I don't know. Uh, I've been reflecting a lot on the Bible and um, how we think through, reflect on, process everything going on in the world. And right now, um, man, I don't know what to make of everything. Whether it's the government or world events, there is so much happening that it almost feels like you're back in the 1920s and 30s and 40s with the way that the world was then happening now, right? And so I've been thinking about, okay, how should Christians, how should disciples, how should followers of Jesus process everything that we're seeing? And man, Paul in the book of First Thessalonians had a lot to say about it. Um, Not to get into too much detail and not to bore you with everything, but Paul was talking to the church in First Thessalonians, and he was talking about comforting the church with the return of Christ, right? In our culture, anyone that was raised around the Left Behind series, there's this subtle fear that a lot of us have to process through when it comes to talking about the end of days, right? But to the early church, that seems to be the hope, the expectation, the long-awaited appeal was the return of Jesus. It was what they aspired for. It was what they hoped for. And we see that in First Thessalonians. Paul, writing in chapter 4, he says, "For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, and with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first." Right? He goes on to say in verse 17, chapter 4:17, "Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and thus we shall always be with the Lord." And he finishes this. We always stop here. We stop at verse 17. But he finishes with this amazing sentence that I feel like the church and those of us that are followers of Jesus need to grasp a hold of, especially with everything going on right now. He says, "Therefore, comfort one another with these words." Wow. They took comfort in the return of Jesus, okay? Oh, man, there's just so much here. There's so much here. He goes on in let me just say one more thing. In chapter 5, verse 6, he says, "Therefore let us not sleep as others do, but let us watch and be sober." Man, there is so much happening, so much in the world. And I don't know when Jesus is coming back. I have no idea. I wish I did. It'd be awesome. I'd write a book about it and sell lots of copies, but I don't know. But what I do know is that if it's soon, now more than ever, in my opinion, my humble estimation, is the time to be reconciled with God. Paul talks a lot about reconciliation in the book of Romans, and what that word is, it means to be made right or to be brought back into harmony with God. And so for the church, rejoice. This is something, everything we're seeing is something that is supposed to happen, and it's something to rejoice in. If you're not a part of the church, now's a time to be reconciled to God. And if you want to meet and to discuss about reconciliation and what that looks like, send me a message. I want to talk to you about it because the Bible is full of reconciliation being the purpose of what Jesus was sent to do and of what the church was to be teaching the lost about. So, last word, don't fret what you see happening on the news and in the media. It's all a part of it, and it's something to rejoice in. God bless.